I found my son Ethan sitting in his apartment in the dark at 3 in the afternoon, curtains drawn, surrounded by empty takeout containers and unopened mail. He'd stopped answering my calls 2 weeks earlier, stopped going to work, stopped existing in any meaningful way. When he finally opened the door, I barely recognized him, 30 pounds lighter, unshaven, eyes hollow with the kind of defeat I'd only seen in crime victims during my 30 years as a detective. "Dad," he said, his voice cracking, "I messed up. I messed up so bad." It took me 4 hours to get the full story out of him. The bar girl in Pattaya. The 6-month relationship conducted mostly through video calls and text messages. The escalating requests for money, each one justified with tears and emergencies and promises. The final transfer of his last $28,000 sent just 2 weeks ago with the belief he was funding their future together. Then the silence, the blocked numbers, the deleted social media accounts, the realization that Laxana, the woman he'd planned to marry, had never existed at all. $95,000, gone. His inheritance from his grandmother, his overtime savings from 5 years of IT work, the down payment he'd been planning to make on his first house, all of it transferred to a woman who'd vanished the moment the last dollar cleared. My son sat on his couch that afternoon, broken and ashamed, and said the words that cut me deeper than any injury I'd sustained in 3 decades of police work. "I'm so stupid, Dad. I'm so pathetic. I don't know how I'll ever recover from this." I looked at my only child, my son, who'd always been gentle, trusting, kind to a fault, and felt something cold and focused settle into my chest. Not rage, not panic. The same calm, methodical determination I'd felt hundreds of times before when closing in on a suspect who thought they'd gotten away with something. I pulled out my notebook, the same type I'd used for 30 years of investigations, and clicked my pen. "Tell me everything," I said. "Every detail, every conversation, every transaction. Start from the beginning." Ethan looked at me with confusion. "Why, Dad, the money's gone. She's gone. There's nothing—" "Son," I interrupted quietly, "I spent 30 years hunting down people who thought they were smarter than me. I'm retired now. I've got time. And that woman just made the biggest mistake of her life." "What mistake?" "She stole from a cop's kid." If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. My name is Mark Donovan. I'm 66 years old, retired detective sergeant from Columbus, Ohio. I spent 30 years with the police department, 10 in patrol, 20 in investigations. I worked fraud, robbery, homicide for a stint, but mostly economic crimes, con artists, scammers, people who made their living exploiting others' trust. I'd seen every variation of human deception, the sophisticated investment fraud, the romance scams targeting elderly widows, the contractor schemes, the identity theft rings. I'd interviewed hundreds of victims, documented thousands of lies, built cases that sent dozens of predators to prison. I was good at my job. Very good. I had a clearance rate well above department average because I understood something fundamental about criminals. They're rarely as smart as they think they are. They get comfortable, they make patterns, they leave trails. And if you're patient enough, methodical enough, those trails lead right to them. I retired at 64 with a solid pension and the satisfaction of knowing I'd made my city safer. My wife Linda had died 6 years earlier from breast cancer, so retirement was quieter than I'd imagined. My son Ethan was my main connection to family life. He lived 20 minutes away, and we had dinner together every Sunday. We talk about his IT work, about sports, about his attempts to rebuild his life after his divorce 2 years earlier. Ethan had always been a gentle kid, even as a child. He was the one who'd cry when other kids were mean, who'd befriend the lonely kid at school, who'd trust people maybe a little too easily. His ex-wife had taken advantage of that trust, cheating on him, gaslighting him, leaving him emotionally shattered when she finally asked for divorce. The divorce hit him hard. He threw himself into work, picked up every overtime shift available, stayed late, came in early. It was his way of coping, staying busy enough not to think about the loneliness. Over 2 years, he'd saved aggressively. Between his salary, overtime pay, and the inheritance he'd received when his grandmother passed, he'd accumulated $95,000. "I'm going to buy a house, Dad," he told me about 8 months ago, excited for the first time since the divorce. "A real house, something that's mine. Maybe find someone new eventually, start over properly." I'd been proud of him. proud of his work ethic, his resilience, his determination to rebuild after heartbreak. Then, in February, he told me he was taking a vacation, a solo trip to Thailand. "I need to get away," he said. "Clear my head. Everyone at work says Thailand is amazing. Cheap, beautiful, different. I need different right now." I'd been to Thailand once, years ago, for a law enforcement conference in Bangkok. I remembered it as chaotic, but fascinating. I told Ethan to be careful, to watch his belongings, to avoid the obvious tourist traps. Standard father advice. "I'll be fine, Dad," he'd said with a smile. "I'm 33, not 13. I can handle a 2-week vacation." He came back from Thailand in early March, seeming lighter, happier. He showed me photos, temples, beaches, street food, the organized chaos of Bangkok. He mentioned meeting some friendly locals, enjoying the nightlife in Pattaya, feeling like he'd finally started moving past the divorce. "I needed that," he said. "I feel like I can breathe again." Over the next few months, I noticed changes. He was on his phone constantly, texting, video calling. He'd smile at his screen in ways I hadn't seen since before his marriage fell apart. When I asked about it, he was vague, just keeping in touch with some people I met traveling, making friends. By June, 4 months after his return from Thailand, he mentioned her specifically, Laxana, a woman he'd met in Pattaya. They were talking every day. She was sweet, understanding, different from American women. She actually listened. She cared. "Are you sure about this, son?" I'd asked carefully. "Long-distance relationships are tough, especially international ones." "I know, Dad, but she's special. I really think this could be something real." I'd felt uneasy, but I didn't push. Ethan was an adult. He'd been hurt badly and was trying to find happiness again. Who was I to question that? By July, he was planning to visit her again. He'd taken a week off work, bought another plane ticket to Thailand. When he came back, he was talking about marriage, about bringing her to America, about building a life together. "I know it seems fast," he said when I expressed concern. "But when you know, you know. She's the one, Dad. I can feel it." That should have been my moment to intervene, to use my 30 years of investigative experience to ask the hard questions, to demand details, to verify her story. But I didn't. Because I wanted my son to be happy. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd found something genuine after so much pain. I was wrong. The calls stopped in mid-August. Ethan stopped coming to Sunday dinners. When I'd text him, his responses were brief, distracted, busy with work. Lot going on. Talk soon. After 2 weeks of this, I drove to his apartment, unannounced. That's when I found him in that dark living room, buried under the wreckage of his life. Getting the full story took hours. He was so ashamed he could barely form the words. But piece by piece, between tears and long silences, the picture emerged. He'd met Laxana at a bar in Pattaya called Anglewitch. She was a hostess there, beautiful, charming, attentive in ways that made him feel seen. They'd talked for hours that first night. She'd told him about growing up poor in Eisen, about supporting her family, about dreaming of a better life. "She wasn't like the other girls," Ethan said. "She wasn't pushy or fake. She seemed genuinely interested in me, in my life, my work, everything." They'd spent his last 3 days in Pattaya together. She'd shown him around the city, introduced him to local food, taken him to places tourists didn't normally see. When he left, she'd cried at the airport. She'd made him promise to keep in touch. He did. They video called daily. She'd tell him about her day, ask about his. She'd send him photos sometimes of her, sometimes of her family's simple house in the village, sometimes of the bar where she worked. She told him she hated working there, hated the attention from other men, but she had no choice. Her family needed the money. "I felt terrible for her," Ethan said. She was trapped in this life she didn't want. By April, 2 months after they'd met, Laxana had started mentioning wanting to leave the bar. If she could just save enough money, she could quit and find different work. But her salary barely covered her expenses and sending money home to her family. Ethan sent her $2,000 just to help. She'd been so grateful, so tearful. She promised to pay him back. She said she loved him. That was the first transfer. In May, Laxana's mother became sick. She needed surgery, something with her gallbladder. The hospital wanted $15,000 up front. Her family had nothing. Laxana was desperate. Ethan sent the money. He showed me the wire transfer receipt. $15,000 to a Thai bank account in Laxana's name. She sent him photos of her mother in a hospital bed, connected to IVs. She sent him a medical bill with official-looking stamps and signatures. She cried on video call, thanking him, calling him her savior. I thought I was doing the right thing, Ethan said, his voice hollow. Her mom was sick. What was I supposed to do? Let her die? In June, Laxana had come up with a plan. She'd found a small cafe for sale in Pattaya. If she could buy it, she could quit the bar, run her own business, build a real life. Then, Ethan could come to Thailand. They could get married. They could run the cafe together. The cafe cost $45,000. It was a steal, she said. Fully equipped, great location, existing customers. But she needed to move fast or someone else would buy it. Ethan sent $30,000 for the down payment. Then another $15,000 for equipment and renovations. He'd planned to visit in July to see the cafe and finalize their plans. But when July came, there were complications. The landlord was being difficult. The paperwork was delayed. There were unexpected fees. She needed another $12,000 to make it all work. He sent it. Then, in early August, she needed $28,000 more, the final payment, to take full ownership. Once this was done, the cafe would be theirs. They could finally be together. Ethan sent his last $28,000 on August 8th. Every penny he had left. And then, she was gone, Ethan said flatly. The next day, her phone was disconnected. Her Line account disappeared. Her Facebook was deleted. I tried calling the bar, but they said she didn't work there anymore. I tried finding the cafe address she'd given me, but when I searched it on Google Maps, it didn't exist. He looked at me with those hollow eyes. $95,000, Dad, everything. I gave her everything because I thought we were building a future together, because I thought someone finally loved me. I sat there absorbing the enormity of what he'd told me. My son Kind, trusting Ethan, had been systematically, methodically drained of every dollar he'd saved. This wasn't a crime of passion or opportunity. This was professional, calculated predation. Have you reported this to the police? I asked. He shook his head. What would I even say? I sent my girlfriend money and now she won't talk to me? They'd laugh at me. Everyone would laugh at me. I'm such an idiot, Dad. How did I not see this coming? You're not an idiot, I said firmly. You're a victim. This woman is a professional criminal. She knew exactly what she was doing. But $95,000 is money. We'll deal with it. Right now, I need to know. Do you have records? Bank transfers, messages, photos, everything? Yeah, it's all on my phone and laptop. Good. I need access to everything. Every message, every photo, every transaction. Can you do that? He nodded, not understanding why, but trusting me enough not to question. One more thing, I said. What's her full name? Not just Laxana, her full Thai name. Laxana Srisai. She showed me her ID card once when we were talking about getting married. I took a photo of it. Perfect. That was the first real mistake she'd made. I helped Ethan clean up his apartment, made him eat a proper meal, sat with him until he fell asleep on the couch. Then I went home, opened my laptop, and started working. I'd spent 30 years investigating criminals. I knew how to build a case. I knew how to follow money trails. I knew how to find people who didn't want to be found. Laxana Srisai thought she'd gotten away with it. Thought this stupid American would slink away in shame, too embarrassed to fight back. She was about to learn that this stupid American had a father who'd never let a case go unsolved. The first rule of investigation: gather everything. Document everything. Assume nothing. I spent the next week at Ethan's apartment, going through his phone and laptop while he was at work. I'd convinced him to go back to his job. Sitting at home wallowing would only make things worse. He needed routine, normalcy, purpose. And I needed uninterrupted time with his digital life. What I found was a masterclass in long-con romance fraud. Laxana had communicated with Ethan through Line, WhatsApp, and Facebook. She'd been meticulous about maintaining the illusion. Daily good morning messages, photos of her day, video calls where she'd cook dinner while talking to him, making it feel domestic and real. Voice messages saying she missed him, loved him, couldn't wait to be together. But under close scrutiny, cracks appeared. The hospital bill she'd sent for her mother's surgery? I ran the document through a reverse image search. The hospital logo was stolen from a real facility in Bangkok, but the document formatting was wrong. Real Thai hospital bills have specific formatting, specific fields, specific layouts. This one was amateur created in Photoshop or Word by someone who'd never actually seen a real medical bill. The photos of her mother in the hospital bed, the metadata showed they were taken on a different date than the supposed surgery. The IV in the photo was attached incorrectly. I'd spent enough time in hospitals with Linda to know what proper IV placement looked like. The cafe business documents? Complete fabrications. The business license number she'd provided didn't exist in Thailand's business registration database. I'd found an online portal where you could verify registered businesses. The address she'd given for the cafe? A vacant lot according to Google Street View. The photos she'd sent of the cafe itself? Reverse image search revealed they were stock photos stolen from a cafe listing in Bangkok, not Pattaya. Every single document, every piece of proof she'd provided was fake. Expertly faked, but fake nonetheless. The money trail was more complex. Ethan had sent money to multiple accounts. First transfer of $2,000 to an account in Laxana Srisai's name. Second transfer of $15,000 to a different account, supposedly her mother's. Multiple transfers, totaling $78,000 to various accounts, all claimed to be related to the cafe purchase. I documented every transaction, account numbers, dates, amounts, transfer receipts. I created a spreadsheet tracking it all. Then I started looking for Laxana herself. Her Facebook account was deleted, but the internet never truly forgets. Using cached pages and archive sites, I recovered her profile. It showed a very different life than what she'd told Ethan. Her real Facebook before she'd scrubbed it showed photos at nightclubs, expensive restaurants, wearing designer clothes. Photos with other foreign men, their faces cropped out but the body language intimate. Check-ins at luxury resorts Ethan had never known about. Comments on her posts from friends, written in Thai. I ran them through translation software. They were revealing, "Another rich foreigner? You're too good at this, 555. When are you going to teach me your secrets? Does he know about the others?" She wasn't a poor bar girl trying to escape her circumstances. She was a professional scammer running multiple marks simultaneously. I found her line profile through a cached search. The username led me to a Thai dating forum where men discussed various Pattaya bar girls. Laxana had 3 threads about her warnings from previous victims. A British man had lost £23,000 to her sick father's scam. An Australian had lost $40,000 to a different business investment scheme. A German had sent her money monthly for a year before realizing she was married with children. She'd done this before, multiple times, refined her technique, perfected her approach, and she'd gotten away with it every time because her victims were too ashamed to fight back. But I wasn't a victim. I was an investigator, and I was going to find her. After 2 weeks of preparation, I had everything I needed except one thing. I needed boots on the ground in Thailand. I needed someone who understood the system, the language, the culture, someone who could help me locate Laxana and build a case that would stand up legally. I found him through an Expat forum, a private investigator in Pattaya named Somchai Fumisak. His website showed he specialized in helping foreigners with relationship fraud cases. His reviews were strong. His rates were reasonable, 30,000 baht per week, plus expenses. I emailed him my entire case file. Within 12 hours, he responded, "Mr. Donovan, I have seen this woman's work before. She is known problem in Pattaya. Many men have complained, but few take action. I can help you. When can you come to Thailand?" I booked a flight for the following week. Ethan didn't want me to go. "Dad, it's not worth it. The money's gone. Let it go. I just want to forget about all of this." "Son, if we let her get away with this, she'll do it to someone else. Someone else's son. Someone else's brother. I can't let that happen." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Be careful over there. I spent 30 years dealing with criminals. Thailand's criminals aren't any smarter than Ohio's." I landed in Bangkok in late September, took a taxi to Pattaya, and checked into a modest hotel near the police station. Somchai met me that evening at a coffee shop. He was in his 50s, former Royal Thai Police, now running his own investigation agency. He spoke excellent English and had the bearing of a man who'd seen everything twice. "You are first father I work with," he said after reviewing my case file again. "Usually it's the victim himself who comes. Or they don't come at all. They go home with shame. My son has enough shame. I'm here to make sure she gets some too. Somchai smiled slightly. Good. This woman Laxana, I know about her. She worked with a group, small operation. Maybe 5 or 6 girls. They all work similar scams. They share information, share techniques. Sometimes they even share victims. One girl introduces another as her friend, and they work together. Do you know where she is? I have ideas. She changes phone numbers often, deletes social media, but she cannot disappear completely. She still works in Pattaya. I have contacts in the bar community. Give me few days. I will find her. What about the police? Will they take this seriously? Somchai tilted his head. Maybe yes, maybe no. Tourist police sometimes help with these cases, especially when have good evidence. But Thai police prefer when foreigners not make big noise. Better to build case first, then approach them with everything ready. Make it easy for them to take action. That aligned with my experience. Cops everywhere prefer cases that are gift-wrapped, clear evidence, clear crime, clear path to prosecution. Then that's what we'll do, I said. Find her first, build the case, then present it. Over the next 5 days, Somchai worked his network. He visited bars where Laxana had worked. He talked to other investigators, to taxi drivers, to motorcycle taxi guys who know everything. He checked rental records for the address on her ID card Ethan had photographed. On day 6, he called me. I found her. She living in small house near Soi Buakau. I have address. I have photos. She's still working. I see her at different bar last night. Which bar? Is called Candy Bar. She using different name now. Call herself Knock, but is same woman. I confirm from the photos your son took. Can we confront her? Not yet. First, we document. We watch. We gather evidence that she is still doing scams. Then we can approach police with everything. Thai law requires proof of intent to defraud. If we just confront her now, she disappears again. I understood. In fraud cases, you needed to show pattern of behavior, not just a single incident. We needed to catch her in the act with someone else. That's exactly what we did. For the next 2 weeks, Somchai and I conducted surveillance on Laxana. We worked in shifts, watching her daily routines, documenting her movements, identifying her associates. The picture that emerged was clear. Laxana was running a sophisticated, ongoing operation. She worked at Candy Bar 5 nights a week. She'd arrive around 8 in the evening, work until 2 in the morning. During that time, she'd engage with foreign men, mostly Western, mostly middle-aged or older. She was selective. She'd talk to several men each night, but only pursue 1 or 2 seriously. We watched her exchange line contacts with at least 6 different men over those 2 weeks. We couldn't hear the conversations, but the body language was always the same: intimate, attentive, focused exclusively on her mark. During the day, she was equally busy. She'd video call with multiple men I watched from a distance as she'd sit in coffee shops, talking sweetly into her phone, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing. These were her existing marks. The one she was milking. She lived in a modest townhouse but drove a Honda Civic that was only a year old. She wore designer clothes, carried expensive handbags, regularly went to nice restaurants. Her lifestyle didn't match the sob story of poverty she'd sold to Ethan. Somchai managed to befriend one of her neighbors, an elderly Thai woman who was happy to gossip about the young woman in unit number 7. She have many farang boyfriend, the neighbor told Somchai in Thai, which he translated for me later. Different man come visit all the time. She tell me she is businesswoman, but everyone know what kind of business. Her mother not sick, her family not poor. She from Bangkok, not Eisen. Everything she tell the farangs is lie. Perfect. Third-party testimony confirming the fraud. But we needed more. We needed to catch her actively scamming someone, needed to document a request for money, needed proof of the fake emergency tactics she used. That opportunity came on day 16 of surveillance. Somchai had befriended one of the bar managers at Candy Bar, a Thai man who was tired of watching foreign men get exploited. He agreed to help us. Laxana is talking to British man, the manager told Somchai one evening. She with him 3 times this week. I think she preparing to hook him. Maybe 1 more week, she will start asking money. That gave us an idea. We needed to warn this British man. But more importantly, we needed to catch her in the act. Somchai posed as a concerned expat and accidentally befriended the British man at the bar one evening. His name was Colin, 58, recently divorced, in Thailand for a month-long vacation. He was staying at a hotel near Beach Road. "That girl you're with, Laxana. You should be careful," Somchai had said casually. "She has a reputation." Colin had been defensive at first, but Somchai had been gentle, persistent. Eventually, Colin agreed to meet us the next day for coffee. We showed him everything: the photos of Laxana's real lifestyle, the testimonies from previous victims, the pattern of scams. Colin had gone pale. "She told me her father was sick," he said quietly. "She was going to ask me to help with medical bills. She showed me photos yesterday." "Jesus, I was about to send her money." "How much?" I asked. £12,000. She said the hospital needed payment up front. I looked at Somchai. "How do you want to play this?" Somchai thought for a moment. "Colin, if you want to help us catch her, you could tell her you want to give her the money in person. Say you don't trust bank transfer, want to hand her cash. We can record the conversation when she explains what the money is for. Then we have evidence." Colin had hesitated, but ultimately agreed. "If it stops her from doing this to someone else, I'll do it." 2 days later, Colin told Laxana he had the money, £12,000 in cash, and wanted to give it to her personally. She was thrilled, grateful, crying. They arranged to meet at a coffee shop near her house. Somchai and I were already there, hidden in a van across the street, with recording equipment. This was borderline illegal surveillance. But in Thailand, recording in public spaces is permissible, and we'd cleared it with Somchai's police contacts beforehand. Laxana arrived wearing modest clothes, her eyes red from fake crying. Colin was already seated. We watched through the van's tinted windows as they talked. Colin had agreed to wear a wire, a small recording device Somchai had provided. We heard everything. "Thank you so much for helping," Laxana said, her voice breaking. "My father, he is very sick. Liver problem. Hospitals say they cannot do surgery until we pay 50,000 baht deposit. I don't have this money. If you not help, he will die." "I want to help," Colin said carefully. "But I want to make sure the money goes to the right place. Can you show me the hospital bills? The doctor's information?" She pulled out documents, the same fake medical bills she'd used on Ethan, probably. Colin looked through them, taking photos with his phone as instructed. "This seems legitimate," Colin said. "But I want to give the money directly to the hospital, not to you. Can we go there together?" Laxana's expression shifted slightly alarm, then calculation. "Hospital is in Bangkok, very far. We cannot go today. Then we'll go tomorrow. I'll rent a car. We'll drive there together and pay the hospital directly." She was trapped. If she agreed, he'd discover there was no sick father, no hospital bill. If she refused, he'd know something was wrong. I think maybe it's better you just give me the money," she said, her voice uncertain now. "The hospital, they know me. They can process payment faster if I bring. But you just said we need to pay a deposit before surgery. Shouldn't we do that directly?" The facade was cracking. Laxana was visibly uncomfortable, her story falling apart under the gentlest scrutiny. "You don't trust me?" she finally said, attempting to shift to guilt. "I want to help your father, not just give you money," Colin said. "There's a difference." She stood abruptly. "I need to go. Maybe we talk later." She left quickly, clearly shaken. Colin waited 5 minutes, then walked to our van. "Did you get it?" he asked. "Every word," Somchai confirmed. "That was perfect. Now we have her on recording, trying to extract money with false medical emergency, refusing to verify the story, and fleeing when challenged. Combined with everything else, this is strong case." Colin looked relieved but sad. "I almost sent her that money. If you hadn't warned me, I'd be another victim. That's why we're doing this," I said. "So no one else has to be." With all the evidence compiled, Ethan's full documentation, the surveillance photos, the recording of Laxana's attempted scam on Colin, testimony from previous victims, bank records, everything, Somchai and I approached the tourist police in Pattaya. The tourist police in Thailand are a specialized unit that handles crimes involving foreigners. They're generally more sympathetic to cases like this than regular police, and they have jurisdiction over fraud cases in tourist areas. We met with a lieutenant named Watana. Somchai presented the case in Thai first, summarizing everything. Then, I presented my documentation. Lieutenant Watana reviewed everything carefully. It took him almost an hour to go through the full case file. When he finished, he looked at me. "Your son, He sent money willingly? He asked in careful English. He sent money because he was lied to. I corrected. Every transfer was based on false pretenses. Fake medical emergency, fake business opportunity, fake documents. That's not willingly, that's fraud. But they have relationship? She is his girlfriend? She pretended to be his girlfriend to facilitate the fraud. That doesn't make it less criminal. The lieutenant considered this. In Thailand, this type of case is difficult. Many foreign men give money to Thai girlfriend, then regret later. Police cannot always know what is gift and what is theft. This isn't ambiguous. Somchai interjected in Thai, then English for my benefit. We have recordings of her using same tactics on another man. We have evidence of multiple previous victims. We have proof that every document she provided was fabricated. This is clear fraud. Under Thai Criminal Code Section 241, Lieutenant Watana nodded slowly. You have done good investigation. Very thorough. Better than most cases I see. He tapped the case file. I think we can make arrest. You want to proceed? Yes, I said firmly. Understand, the lieutenant said carefully. If we arrest her, she will get lawyer. The case will go to court. This take time. Maybe 1 year, maybe more. And recovering money is different from criminal conviction. You may win the criminal case but not get money back. I understand. I still want to proceed. He nodded. Okay, we will arrest her tonight. You want to be there? I looked at Somchai. He shrugged. Is unusual, but I think Lieutenant can allow it. You are not part of arrest, but you can observe from distance. I want to be there, I said. I want to see her face when she realizes she's caught. That evening, I watched from inside Somchai's car as Thai police entered Candy Bar around 10 in the evening. Laxana was working, sitting with an older German man, laughing and touching his arm flirtatiously. 4 officers approached her table. The head officer showed his badge and spoke to her in Thai. Her face went from confusion to shock to fear in rapid succession. She stood, arguing, gesturing. The German man looked bewildered. The other bar girls had stopped working, watching the drama unfold. One officer showed her an arrest warrant. She read it, and I saw the moment she understood, her eyes widened, her mouth opened slightly. She looked around the bar as if searching for an escape route, but there wasn't one. They handcuffed her. She started crying, saying something desperately in Thai. The officers weren't rough, but they weren't gentle either. They escorted her out of the bar, through the street, to a waiting police truck. As she was being loaded into the truck, her eyes swept across the street and locked onto Somchai's car. She couldn't see me through the tinted windows, but for a moment, I wondered if she knew someone was watching. If she felt the weight of all her victims finally pressing down on her. The truck drove away, taking her to Pattaya police station for processing. How do you feel? Somchai asked. Like I'm halfway done, I said. The arrest was just the beginning. Thai criminal justice moves slowly, especially in fraud cases. Laxana was processed, photographed, fingerprinted, and held overnight. She posted bail the next morning, 200,000 baht, presumably paid by family or other scammers in her network. The preliminary hearing was set for 6 weeks later. During that time, Somchai and I continued building the case. We located 2 more previous victims, a Canadian who'd lost $32,000 to a similar cafe scam, and a Swedish man who'd sent monthly payments for 8 months, thinking he was supporting Laxana's sick child. Both men agreed to provide statements. Both were still traumatized, angry, embarrassed. Both felt vindicated that someone was finally holding her accountable. We also hired a lawyer, a Thai attorney named Kun Precha, who specialized in criminal fraud cases. He reviewed our evidence and was confident. This is a strong case, he told me. Very unusual to have this much documentation. Usually these cases are he said, she said. But you have recordings, fake documents, multiple victims, pattern of behavior. Prosecutor will be happy with this. What about recovering the money? I asked. That is separate, he explained. Criminal case is about punishment, jail time, probation, fines. Civil case is about restitution. We can file civil claim alongside criminal case, asking for full return of money plus damages, but recovering actual money depends if she has assets. She drives a new Honda, wears expensive clothes, lives reasonably well, then we can seize assets as part of judgment. But $95,000 is large amount. She probably not have all of it anymore. Much is spent. I understood. But some recovery was better than none. The preliminary hearing was brief. Laxana appeared with a lawyer, a slick Bangkok attorney who clearly specialized in defending bar girls accused of scamming foreigners. He tried to characterize the case as a relationship gone bad, a misunderstanding between boyfriend and girlfriend. But the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecutor presented the fake documents, the recordings, the testimony from multiple victims. Laxana's lawyer had no effective counter. The judge ordered the case to proceed to trial. Trial date was set for 3 months later, in January. During those 3 months, Laxana's lawyer tried several times to negotiate a settlement. He approached Kun Precha with offers. She'd repay $20,000 if we dropped the charges. Then $30,000. Then $45,000. She's scared, Kun Precha told me. She knows the case is strong. She knows she will probably lose at trial. She is trying to minimize damage. What do you recommend? Depends on your goal. If goal is maximum money recovered, settlement might be best option. Criminal conviction is not guarantee you will see money. But if goal is justice, if goal is ensuring she faces full consequences, then we proceed to trial. I thought about Ethan, still struggling to rebuild his self-esteem, still questioning how he'd been so stupid. I thought about Colin, who'd nearly lost 12,000 pounds. I thought about the Canadian, the Swedish man, the German, the British man, the Australian, all the men Laxana had victimized over the years. We proceed to trial, I said. She needs to face full consequences. Otherwise, she'll just do this again. The trial was scheduled for late January. I'd already been in Thailand for 4 months by this point, living in a modest apartment Somchai helped me find, staying on a series of tourist visa extensions. I called Ethan every week with updates. He was slowly recovering, going to therapy, rebuilding his savings, but he was still fragile. You don't have to do this, Dad, he said during one call. You've been away for months. I know you want justice, but you can come home. I'm seeing this through, I said. For you. For every other man she's hurt. And because I've never left a case unsolved. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecutor presented all our evidence methodically. Ethan's documentation, the fake documents, the recordings, testimony from Colin and the other victims, bank records showing the money trail. Laxana's defense was weak. Her lawyer tried to claim cultural misunderstanding, that in Thai culture, helping your girlfriend's family is normal, that Ethan had given the money as gifts, not loans. But the recording of her attempting the same scam on Colin destroyed that defense. It proved pattern of behavior, proved intent to defraud, proved this wasn't a misunderstanding but a deliberate scheme. On day 3, the judge rendered his verdict. Guilty on 4 counts of fraud, guilty on 2 counts of forgery for the fake documents, guilty on 1 count of identity theft for using false business registration documents. Sentencing was immediate. 3 years in prison, suspended to 18 months with good behavior. Additionally, the court ordered full restitution of $95,000 plus $20,000 in damages and legal fees. Total judgment, $115,000. Laxana had been stone-faced through most of the trial, but when the sentence was read, she broke down crying. Her lawyer objected, filed immediate appeals paperwork, but the judge was unmoved. This defendant has shown a pattern of targeting vulnerable foreign men and extracting money through elaborate deception, the judge said in Thai, translated by the court interpreter. She has shown no remorse and has attempted to continue her criminal activities even while facing these charges. The court finds that substantial punishment is warranted both to punish this defendant and to deter others who might engage in similar conduct. Laxana was taken into custody immediately. She'd serve at least 12 months before being eligible for early release. I sat in the courtroom after it emptied, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Satisfaction. Not happiness. This situation was too sad for happiness, but satisfaction that justice had been served. That Laxana would face consequences. That other men would be protected. Kun Precha approached me. Now comes the difficult part, he said. Collecting the judgment. Collecting a judgment in Thailand is complex, especially when the defendant has limited legitimate assets. But Kun Precha was experienced in this process. First, we identified what Laxana owned. The Honda Civic was in her name. It was seized by the court and sold at auction. The sale brought in 480,000 baht, about $13,000. Her bank accounts were frozen and emptied. She had 3 accounts in various Thai banks with a combined balance of 560,000 baht, another $15,000. Personal property jewelry, electronics, designer bags was inventoried and sold. That brought another 300,000 baht, about $8,000. Total recovered through asset seizure, approximately $36,000. Less than half of what Ethan had lost, but significant. The rest of the judgment would theoretically be collected through wage garnishment once Laxana was released from prison. But Kun Precha was realistic about that. She will probably leave Thailand, he said. Or she will work in cash economy where garnishment cannot reach her. I would not expect to collect the remaining amount. I'd accepted that. $36,000 was better than nothing. More importantly, the criminal conviction was permanent. Laxana would have a record that would follow her. She'd served time. She'd faced consequences. But there was one more thing I wanted to do. I'd documented the entire case from Ethan's initial involvement to the surveillance, to the trial, to the conviction. I compiled it into a detailed case study, changing Ethan's name for privacy but keeping Laxana's name and photo intact. I posted it on every major expat forum in Thailand. Thai Visa, Reddit Thailand, Facebook expat groups, Pattaya, specific forums. I titled it simply, Laxana Srisai, May Nok, Convicted Romance Scammer, Full Case Documentation and Warning. The post included photos of Laxana, details of her scam tactics, the fake documents she'd used, timeline of multiple victims, the trial outcome and conviction, warning signs to watch for. I didn't editorialize much. I just presented the facts, let them speak for themselves, and ended with a simple warning. If you meet this woman or anyone using similar tactics, report it immediately to the tourist police. Romance scams are not civil matters or misunderstandings. They are criminal fraud, and victims have recourse under Thai law. The post spread rapidly. Within days, it had been shared thousands of times. Other victims, men who'd been too ashamed to come forward, started commenting with their own experiences with Laxana or similar scammers. Bar owners in Pattaya began sharing the post, warning their employees that this behavior would not be tolerated. Dating apps added Laxana's photo to their fraud alert systems. Thai media picked up the story. A Bangkok newspaper ran an article about the case, using it as a cautionary tale about romance scams targeting foreigners. A Thai television program did a segment on the conviction, interviewing the prosecutor and showing Laxana's photo as a warning. The exposure was comprehensive, permanent, and devastating to any future scamming attempts. Even after her release from prison, Laxana would be known. Her face would be recognized. Her tactics would be familiar. She'd never be able to run this scam again. I returned to Ohio in early March, 11 months after I'd first found Ethan in that dark apartment. I'd been gone longer than I'd ever intended, but the case had required it. Ethan picked me up from the airport. He looked different, healthier, steadier, more like himself. He'd been going to therapy regularly, had been promoted at work, had started slowly rebuilding his social life. "You did it, Dad," he said as we drove back to Columbus. "I can't believe you actually did it." "We did it," I corrected. "Your documentation made it possible. You kept every record, every message. That's what built the case." "I still can't believe I fell for it," he said quietly. $95,000. How did I not see it? "Because she was a professional," I said firmly. "She'd refined her technique over years. She knew exactly what to say, how to act, when to push. You weren't stupid. You were targeted by an expert." "Did the exposure help? The posts you made?" "More than I expected. We've had 17 men contact us who were in the early stages of being scammed by Laxana or her associates. Every one of them walked away when they saw the case documentation. That's 17 men who didn't lose their savings. 17 families who weren't destroyed." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "So some good came from it." "A lot of good. You were victimized, but your experience is now protecting others. That matters." We had dinner together that evening, our first Sunday dinner in almost a year. It felt normal, comfortable, like we'd found our way back to stable ground. "What about the money?" Ethan asked. "The $36,000 they recovered. It's being transferred to your account. Should arrive in a few weeks." He shook his head. "That's your money, Dad. You paid for the investigation, the lawyers, the flights." "The investigation and legal fees came to about $18,000, I interrupted. "The rest is yours. Use it to restart your house fund." "Dad?" "Son, I'm retired with a police pension and no debt. I'm fine. You're 33, rebuilding your life, working toward your future. That money is yours. Don't argue with me." He smiled slightly. "Yes, sir." Over the following months, Ethan continued to heal. The $36,000 he received was a start toward rebuilding his savings. More importantly, his self-esteem gradually returned. Knowing that Laxana had been caught, convicted, and exposed helped him process what had happened as a crime rather than a personal failing. He started dating again, slowly, carefully, with much healthier boundaries. He met a woman named Sarah, who worked in his IT department. She was kind, patient, understanding about his past trauma. They took things slow, built trust gradually. A year after the trial, Ethan closed on his first house, a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet Columbus neighborhood. Sarah helped him move in. I helped too, carrying boxes, assembling furniture. Proud of how far my son had come from that dark apartment where I'd found him broken. I still think about her sometimes. Ethan admitted one evening as we sat on his new porch, beers in hand. "Wonder if she learned anything, if she regrets what she did." "Probably not," I said honestly. Predators rarely feel genuine remorse. But she knows there are consequences now. She knows not every victim will suffer in silence. Because of you, because we refused to let her win, I still track romance scam cases online. I help when I can, advising victims, connecting them with resources, sharing what I learned. I've become known in certain expat circles as someone who will answer questions, who look at situations and offer objective assessment. I do it because I can, because I have the skills, the experience, the time, and because I remember what my son looked like in that dark apartment, broken and ashamed, believing he deserved what happened to him. No one deserves to be exploited. No one deserves to have their loneliness weaponized against them. And no predator deserves to operate without consequences. 2 years have passed since I found Ethan in that apartment, since I flew to Thailand, since I spent nearly a year building a case against a woman who thought she'd gotten away with it. People ask me if it was worth it, the time, the money, the effort. The answer is simple. Absolutely. Ethan recovered emotionally and financially. He's thriving now, engaged to Sarah, planning their wedding, living in his own house, advancing in his career. The trauma of what Laxana did to him is part of his history, but it doesn't define him anymore. Laxana served 14 months in Thai prison before being released on good behavior. According to contacts I still maintain in Pattaya, she left Thailand immediately upon release, reportedly returning to Bangkok to stay with family. The last I heard, she was working in a legitimate retail job, unable to work in bars anymore because her face is too well known. The exposure ensured she can't easily run the same scam again. Her photo, her tactics, her conviction are all documented and searchable. Any potential victim who does even minimal research will find the warnings. Other scammers in Pattaya, Laxana's former associates, saw what happened and became more cautious. Some stopped the scams entirely. Some moved to other cities. The bar community in Pattaya became marginally safer for vulnerable foreign men. The case set a precedent. Thai authorities saw that with proper documentation and persistence, these cases could result in convictions. Other victims became more willing to report, more willing to fight back. The shame that usually silences victims began to crack. I learned things too, about the sophisticated psychology of long con scams, about how professionals target vulnerability, build trust systematically, extract resources incrementally, about how the shame of being victimized often causes more lasting damage than the financial loss. Most importantly, I learned that fighting back is possible. The system isn't perfect Thai or American, but it works if you're willing to do the work. Document everything. Gather evidence methodically. Be patient. Be persistent. Don't let shame silence you. For other fathers or mothers or siblings or friends who discover someone they love has been victimized this way, here's what I'd tell you. First, provide emotional support without judgment. Your loved one already feels stupid, embarrassed, ashamed. They don't need you to confirm those feelings. They need you to remind them they were targeted by a professional criminal. Second, document everything immediately. Messages, photos, transactions, promises, gather it all before anything can be deleted or lost. Evidence is the foundation of any case. Third, report it to local police, to embassy services, to appropriate authorities in the country where the scam occurred. Many cases go unreported because victims assume nothing can be done. But reports create records. Records create patterns. Patterns create cases. Fourth, consider professional investigation. If the amount stolen is substantial, hiring a local investigator with language skills and cultural knowledge is worth the investment. They can accomplish in days what would take you months. Fifth, don't expect full recovery. You might get some money back, but probably not all of it. The real victory is in accountability, ensuring the scammer faces consequences and can't easily victimize others. Finally, share the story. With permission from the victim, document and share what happened. Not for revenge or spectacle, but to warn others. Every exposure makes it harder for scammers to operate. Every case documented is a tool that protects potential future victims. Romance scams are devastating crimes that target people at their most vulnerable. They're also surprisingly common, especially in Southeast Asian countries where cultural differences, language barriers, and shame around being scammed create perfect conditions for predators. But they're not unsolvable, they're not unstoppable, and victims are not powerless. Laxana thought she'd found an easy mark, a heartbroken, lonely American who'd send money and then slink away too, ashamed to fight back. She was right about the first part. She was wrong about what came next. She didn't account for the father, the retired detective who'd spent 30 years hunting people who thought they were smarter than the law, who had time, resources, and 30 years of investigative experience, who would fly around the world, spend months building a case, and see it through to conviction. She thought she'd stolen from a victim. She'd actually stolen from a cop's kid. That was her mistake. If this story has helped you understand romance scams better, or if you know someone who might benefit from hearing it, please consider subscribing and sharing. These stories require extensive research and time to produce, and your support helps me continue creating educational content. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, if something feels too good to be true, it usually is. Verify everything. Trust carefully, and never suffer in silence.